Welcome to this lunchtime broadcast, which highlights the news making headlines in the land of the brave and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Here are the news headlines. Government has announced that it is conducting a legal assessment to determine the appropriate course of action within the constitutional framework following a recent Supreme Court ruling that compels the state to recognize foreign same-sex spouses married to Namibians in terms of the country's immigration laws. The United States and Saudi Arabia called on warring sides in Sudan to extend a fragile ceasefire due to expire Monday as weeks of fighting reach a stalemate in the capital and elsewhere in the African country. I am Glenn Rashipura and this is NMH at 1. In our midday news update, a newborn baby was found yesterday morning after being dumped in a dustbin in Windhoek North. A member of the public found the baby after looking through the garbage to collect empty cool drink cans. The Namibian police have opened a case, but no suspects have been arrested in this regard. After the break, we get into your visual news. Do stay with us.
To another exciting episode of GOtv.
Lees die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
Getting into our visual news, the country director of International Youth Fellowship Namibia, Pali Mutilifa, gives us an insight on what took place at the Youth Empowerment Day. The Youth Empowerment event was held at the Commersdale Community Hall on Saturday.
The bold climate neutrality commitments outlined in the Paris Agreement and our ambitious aspirations to leverage our world-class resources creates an opportunity to develop a sustainable green economy underpinned by thousands of quality green jobs. With those long remarks, I challenge all of you here, stakeholders and all in the room today, to be bold as follows. Namibia and us in the room must take our rightful place and lead the race as the clean energy hub of Africa. Be bold and build Africa's first gigawatt scale green hydrogen and ammonia project. Lead the way and become a net exporter of clean energy to our neighbors and of course indeed the world. Showcase unashamedly how the port of Lüderitz can annually export 2 million tons of ammonia to the port of Rotterdam and beyond before the end of this decade. Finally, let us lead the way and acquire the skills needed to build a super clean energy hub. The time to lead is now. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Now, that was Hyphen Energy Chief Executive Officer Marco Refinetti and Pamba Shifeta, the Minister of Environment, that started the signing of the feasibility and implementation agreement of the Green Hydrogen Project at State House. Now we take a look at the Country Director of International Youth Fellowship Namibia, Pali Mutilifa, who gives us an insight on what took place at the Youth Empowerment Day.
Yes, Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pali from Our Namibia, and right now we are having the Youth Empowerment Day at Kommansdal Community Hall, and we are still waiting for more youth to join us. And basically, this whole event is for the youth, to empower the youth, as we know that our youth will be writing exams soon, and we just want to empower them. We want to encourage them to do well in their exams, and we'll be having mind lecture today. We'll also be having mind recreation games and team building games, just so that the youth connect, so that when they are studying at school, they can go to the next person to ask, because they experience asking people here. So it's basically that. So we welcome all the youth to come join us today, and really we hope that we really empowered the youth today. Thank you.
Cabinet has given the green light for an agreement that will see Namibian police officers learning Portuguese. More on this after the break in the newspaper review segment.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with the entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news. Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Let's get into the newspaper review, starting off with the Namibian Sun's front page. Government has announced that it is conducting a legal assessment to determine the appropriate course of action within the constitutional framework following a recent Supreme Court ruling that compels the state to recognize foreign same-sex spouses married to Namibians in terms of the country's immigration laws. Attorney General Festus Mbandeka, in a statement issued yesterday, stressed that government takes note of the Supreme Court judgment and upholds the independence of the judiciary, adding the courts are subject only to the Constitution and the law. He said, given the magnitude of this judgment and its wider legal implications, government is in the process of conducting a legal assessment of this constitutional ruling before determining the appropriate course of action within the available constitutional parameters. Government will inform the public of the official response to this Supreme Court ruling at the appropriate time. Human rights lawyer Norman Shombe said it is within the state's right to do a legal assessment, but compliance with the court order should not be dependent on the assessment. Cabinet has given the green light for an agreement that will see Namibian police officers learning Portuguese. The Minister of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security will sign a protocol of cooperation with the Comillos Institute of Cooperation and Languages based in Portugal in this regard. At this point, it is not known what the budget for this undertaking will be, and according to Police Inspector General Joseph Shikongo, this is one of the issues to be worked out in the coming months. He explained that the decision to teach members of the Namibian police Portuguese is in line with Interpol's requirements, and also because Portuguese is one of the languages spoken in SADC. On to Republicans' front page. The Republican leads with a story on the construction industry. Some businesses in the construction industry are struggling in the current uncertain economic environment, which continues to have an extremely adverse effect on the sector, to pay employees monthly contributions to the Namibian Building Workers Pension Fund. Now, the Construction Industries Federation of Namibia and the Metal and Allied Workers Union of Namibia collaborated in May 1990 to establish this umbrella fund for the industry. This is to ensure the most vulnerable employees have an adequate social protection and relative financial security upon retirement. According to the CIF CEO, Barbara Kirchner, all members who belong to the Federation must comply with the Code of Conduct, which in principle means they support the pension contributions. Namibia continues to sidestep key proposals from the International Monetary Fund that call on public banks to move away from the current self-regulatory system and instead fall under the supervision of the central bank. That is according to the Republicans' second page. Now, the government say it will not be rushed into deciding on the way forward, and should there be a need to change the operations, these challenges will only take place after thorough evaluation. The country's state-owned banks include the Development Bank of Namibia, Agribank, and Nampo saving banks, which are currently not regulated by the Bank of Namibia. However, the IMF feels that keeping these three banks under the watchful eye of the central bank will help improve performances and ensure that public banks carry out their mandates. Calls have also been made to redefine mandates in an attempt to improve the targeting of market failures and the utilization of private capital. On the front page of the Allgemeine Zeitung, they report on the Namibian construction sector. They warn that some contractors are failing to comply with insurance requirements and is urging that the sector must be encouraged with domestic orders to ensure its financial stability. In May 1990, the umbrella organization Namibia Building Workers Pension Fund was jointly founded by the Construction Industries Federation of Namibia and the Metal and Allied Workers Union of Namibia to provide workers in the construction sector with adequate social protection. On page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports on the improved training strategy of the Namibia Hospitality Association. The roadmap was created during the recent Han Congress, which was held under the theme Co-creating a Roadmap for Tourism Training in Namibia. This roadmap now looks at developing skills and investing in Namibia's human resources to ensure tourism growth and prosperity. We'll be right back with more newspaper review after the break. Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Attachment stays in list A in the speech, rate and taxes, and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
Economic indicators, tomorrow's weather and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweo.
We continue with our newspaper review. On page 1 of the Namibian, former Fisheries and Marine Resources Minister Bernard Esau says 4 of his co-accused in the Fish Road fishing quota fraud and corruption case used his name to set up the alleged scheme through which they benefited from Namibian fishing quotas that were sold to the Atlantic Fishing Company Group Semherji. After some prodding from Deputy Prosecutor General Clive Ludibesi, who continued to cross-examine Esau in his bail hearing in Windhoek on Friday. Now, Esau told the court his name was used by former Attorney General and Justice Minister Saki Shangala, former National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Board Chairperson James Hautuglipi, and his son-in-law Temson Hautuglipi in dealings that they had with the Semherji Group. It took repeated questions from Ludibesi before Esau named the people that he said had used his name to strike deals for the Icelandic Group's use of fishing quotas. Now, on to page 3, they report on the government seeking legal advice on same-sex marriage ruling. The government is conducting a legal assessment on the recent landmark ruling by the Supreme Court, directing it to recognize same-sex marriages validly concluded abroad before deciding on a course of action. According to Attorney General Festus Mandenga, given the magnitude of the judgment and its wider legal implications, the government is in the process of conducting a legal assessment of this constitutional ruling before determining the appropriate course of action within the available constitutional parameters. Now, the chairperson of the Nama Traditional Leaders, GOAP Johannes Isaac, said the association, together with the Overhero Traditional Authority, will keep on fighting for their inalienable rights for self-representation during ongoing genocide negotiations. This was his stern message when delivering the keynote address during the official opening of the 2023 edition of the annual Nama Cultural Festival in Keetmanshoop on Friday. Because of their legal status as Nama and Overhero people, national and international legal instruments demand their direct engagement as necessary parties in all aspects of genocide negotiations with Germany. The High Kua Traditional Authorities leader observed that it is required from the presidency to respond to the special rapporteurs on the promotion of truth, justice, reparation, and guarantee of non-recurrence during these negotiations. On to page 3, the New Era looks at how much dehorning cost the ministry. In the span of 7 years, the Environment Ministry has dehorned approximately 2,500 rhinos across the country, incurring a cost of 50 million Namibian dollars. That the initiative has undertaken by the ministry has as a measure to combat poaching. According to the Save the Rhino website, Namibia was the first country to use dehorning to protect rhinos from poaching. Speaking during a dehorning exercise in Etosha National Park last week, Lion Minister Pohamba Shifeta said the exercise is costly but necessary to preserve the precious commodity. According to Shifeta, it costs between 180,000 and 250,000 Namibian dollars to dehorn one rhino. He said dehorning is extremely costly due to the effort of finding the animals and the cost associated with the immobilization process, especially if needed on a recurrent basis. On to Market Watch. Pick n Pay Namibia, a subsidiary of the Outlever and Lease Group, officially opened the doors of its new Pick n Pay Express store at the Namco Soweto service station in Katutura on Wednesday. This new store is Pick n Pay Namibia's second owner-managed express store. Present at the opening was side owner of the Pick n Pay Express Namco Soweto service station, David Ilonga, who stated, "We are here to witness what started out as a difficult task to accomplish. However, with perseverance and consistency, this dream has come true, and we're proud to say that we are bringing our services closer to the people of Soweto and surrounding communities." After the break, we get into your economic news. Do stay with us.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
In today's economic news, Zimbabweans are feeling the wrath of high inflation. The rate of inflation in the southern African country now stands at 131.7% in the month of May. Locals are now helpless as they are now forced to search for cheaper products as a way to survive the overpriced goods at major supermarkets. In the shops they call trucks lie the solution to their demise, as they can buy cheaper products compared to large supermarkets. According to one, they buy at the truck shop because they are cheap. Their price is not even expensive. In the big shops these days, they are expensive. Zimbabwe has endured years of fluctuating value of currencies worsened by the adoption of the US dollar. Now, many Zimbabweans are now shunning away from major stores that experience frequent fluctuating currency rates when converting to the local Zim dollar. Let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 24.26 and against the euro at 21.6, and $2 Namibian dollars and 78 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the selected NSX stock closing prices, Letshego Holdings went up 0.30%. Local index closed at 0.01%, while the overall index closed at 0.43%. Zinc went up 4.33%, while Brent crude oil went down 1%, trading at $76.88 per barrel. After the break, we get into news from Africa. To stay with us.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's get into news from across Africa. The United States and Saudi Arabia called on warring sides in Sudan to extend a fragile ceasefire due to expire on Monday, as weeks of fighting reached a stalemate in the capital and elsewhere in the African country. The Sudanese army and a rival paramilitary force battling for control of Sudan since mid-April had agreed last week to the week-long truce brokered by the US and the Saudis. However, the ceasefire, like others before it, did not stop the fighting in the capital of Khartoum and elsewhere in the country. In a joint statement early Sunday, the US and Saudi Arabia called for an extension of the current truce, which expires tonight. A statement read that while imperfect, an extension nonetheless will facilitate the delivery of urgently needed humanitarian assistance to the Sudanese people. The statement also urged Sudanese military government and the rebel rapid support forces to continue negotiations to reach an agreement on extending the ceasefire. Getting into our second story, Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Qin Gang attended a reception celebrating the Africa Day in Beijing on Thursday, putting forward proposals on further deepening China-Africa cooperation. Now addressing the reception, Qin congratulated the Organization of Africa Unity on its 60th anniversary on behalf of the Chinese government, noting that Africa has become an important force with global influence and rising international status. In the new era of building a closer China-Africa community with a shared future, China and Africa need to strengthen unity and cooperation more than ever before, Qin said. Now, he said China and Africa should firmly safeguard each other's legitimate rights and interests and further strengthen mutual support on issues concerning each other's sovereignty, development, and dignity. After the break, we get into international news. Just stay with us. Now, North Korea has notified Japan of its plan to launch an artificial satellite between May 31st and June 11th, the Japanese government said on Monday. Now, the reclusive North said it has completed its first military spy satellite, and its leader Kim Jong-un has approved final preparations for the launch. Analysts say the satellite is part of a surveillance technology program that includes drones aimed at improving nuclear-armed North Korea's ability to strike targets in the event of war. North Korea has tried several times to launch Earth observation satellites, of which two appear to have been successfully placed in orbit, the latest in 2016. After the break, we get into your local sports news.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhcom.na.
Let's take a look at the local sports news. Head coach Brian Titus is aiming high for Namibia's upcoming participation at the Under-13 Craven Week Schools Rugby Tournament, set to be held at Maritzburg College in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa, from the 25th to the 30th of June. The Namibian Under-13 team was announced in Windhoek on Saturday, along with the Under-12 team that will separately travel to an inter-provincial tournament in Klerksdorp, an opportunity to expose some of the upcoming talent ahead of next year's Under-13 showpiece. Titus said they had a good training camp last week and some of the players really do look impressive. Some individuals still need to work on their basic skills, while of course they have some individual and organizational teamwork to do in the remaining time. On to our next story. Super Sports Orlando Pirates were crowned 2023 Nedbank Cup champions following their dramatic 2-1 win over Sekhukhune United at a packed Loftus Versfeld Stadium on Saturday night. The game commenced at a rapid pace with both teams showcasing their attacking impetus while Orlando Pirates applied pressure with early possession of the ball. Sekhukhune looked to exploit the Buccaneers in transition moments. Babina Noko took the lead in the 12th minute of the match after capitalizing on a series of errors inside the Bucks' penalty area. On hand to collect a loose ball inside the area, Simbobiso Vilikasi' calm finish to the goalkeeper's left opened the scoring. Now, after conceding, Pirates injected urgency into their gameplay and immediately went on the attack in search of an equalizer. With 20 minutes of football played, Pirates came close to opening their account as a sequence of brave defending saw Sekhukhune block numerous attempts at a goal inside the 18-yard area. Now, after an absence of more than 80 years, South Africa hosted the World Table Tennis Championships that ended this Sunday in Durban. According to the head of the International Table Tennis Federation, this event marks an opportunity to raise awareness for the sport and inspire a new generation. Petra Swarling, president of the International Table Tennis Federation, said it was 84 years since the last time in Africa and first time ever in South Africa. By bringing the event here, they created some awareness of our beautiful sport, as well as making it visible for the young kids and new generations to come. So we really hope that this event will create newborn table tennis stars in South Africa for the future to come. After we get into our international sports shortly. Hawaii's Kari Samoa dominated the pool at the Surf Ranch Pro in Lemoore, California on Sunday, May 28th to climb to the top of the Surfing World Tour ranking and improve her chances of qualifying for the Paris Olympics to defend her gold medal. Now, California's Griffin Colapinto took out Brazil 2019 world champion and Tokyo Olympics gold medalist Italio Ferreira in a high-scoring men's final. Moore was flawless, going both left and right in the artificial waves and was too strong for young Floridian Caroline Marks in the final. Now, deep in California cow country, more than 100 miles from the coast, the surf ranch has been something of a divisive stop on the world top for both surfers and spectators. Now, American Joseph Newgarden of Team Penske edged out Marcus Ericsson to win the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday, May 28th, in a nail-biting finish to the greatest spectacle in racing, as he denied the sweet back-to-back wins at the Brickyard. Now, 3 red flags late in the race set up a 2-lap shootout, with Ericsson leading the restart before Newgarden, who moved from 4th to 2nd by virtue of race control, blasted past him to give owner Roger Penske his 19th Indy 500 win, but first since his purchase of the IndyCar Series in 2019. Considered the best driver never to win the Indy 500, it was the one victory missing from the 32-year-old American's resume. Twice IndyCar Series champion in 2017 and 2019, Newgarden was patient in a race full of drama. After Graham Rahal was left stalled on the starting grid, the race was run at a blistering pace, with the first caution of the day coming near the halfway mark of the 200 laps when Stingray Robb slammed into the wall on lap 91. After the break, we get into the highlights.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the double.
This is Animated One, and here are the news highlights. The United States and Saudi Arabia called on warring sides in Sudan to extend a fragile ceasefire due to expire on Monday as weeks of fighting reached a stalemate in the capital and elsewhere in the African country. The Sudanese army and a rival paramilitary force battling for control of Sudan since mid-April had agreed last week to the week-long truce brokered by the U.S. and the Saudis. With that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with Animated One, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world, ranging from current affairs, economic news, sports, and international headlines. From me, Glenn Rashipura, until next time.